Effects of COVID are diverse. In terms of trade, of course, imports have reduced. You have seen some businesses have closed in order to limit the spread. So the speed of general trade of how business has been operating in terms of turnaround has reduced. The biggest effect is uncertainty. When will this pandemic end? So we have to operate with it, we have to live with it.
So living with it, how are you planning to live with it?
Well, the first thing is to accept that it is here, and you plan how you are going to survive and maneuver. So living with it is the most important step is to control it so that it doesn't take over all your businesses in terms of reducing the human capacities and human resource. Then two is to prioritize the business sectors and so that you survive. It is no longer the issue of doing much profit, but rather how you survive, and then you plan after the pandemic.
In terms of strategies, can you give us details of 1, 2, 3, or 4 strategies that you've put in place to make sure that at least the members of the PSF are going to survive, but living with this pandemic, but also trying to recover their businesses?
One way is to work with our stakeholders, the government, development partners, private sector, to see how they can do a quick recovery. Basically, we are punching the holes to make sure that the speed recovery is going to be faster. So working with the government, we are now in the process of restructuring the loans. You have seen some sectors which are affected greatly, like hotels, tourism operators. They have applied for loan restructuring. Then there is also working capital, especially for SMEs, because they are the majority composers of the business. So they have to get at least the working capital to reduce all the pressure and a lot of uncertainties. 2 is to keep engaging the members and the government and all other stakeholders in the region, the port authorities, the logistics service providers, to reduce on some costs and charges that have been applied in the normal business. So that is what we are coming up with.
The government, through the National Bank of Rwanda, have set the Economic Recovery Fund, and so far, as you mentioned, the hotel sector is going to benefit by 50% from that fund. But then other members of the private sector, how are you trying to make sure that you maximize the benefits of this ERF?
We are encouraging members to apply, those that are eligible. The information is out there to know what it takes for you to, 1, to get loan restructuring, 2, to access.
Honestly speaking, most of the members of the private sector federation were affected by this COVID-19, and the conditions, as you mentioned, that were put in place to make sure that the members of PSF are going to benefit from this ERF are a little bit surprised to some of the members, because they didn't have that habit of keeping bookkeeping and putting in order each and everything about their businesses. So they don't have the records, which is the challenge to many of businesses around. So what are you going to do to at least make sure that, even though they were surprised by these conditions, which they didn't know that the COVID-19 is going to be there, and it's the only way that they can get the access to the fund, how are we going to help these people who are not going to access the ERF benefits, but at least have other ways to survive?
You can't just give money without knowing whom you are giving your money, how they are operating business. To know that you're operating business, you must have certain levels of records. So, but the majority, those who have the records, they will access. Then we go to the second set of process, knowing who are these that don't have books of accounts, but they are doing business and they need to be facilitated. The key point here is business should be helped to recover. So those that we think don't have business, and at least they deserve to be given a second opportunity, working with the government institutions, then we can advocate and come forward. But the message here is we cannot generalize. that everyone is not keeping the books. Otherwise, how have you been business and paying taxes? But let's assume they are there, but they shouldn't be the majority in that area.
Let's go back to the international trade. How are you trying to respond to the challenges of importing and exporting today when we still have this problem?
The best quick win is to encourage people to invest in make products locally produced other than relying on imports. That is the easiest solution. The way to go about it, we are encouraging members now to do collective investments. In collective investments, they are putting resources together. Putting resources together, you gain much in terms of bargaining capacity. So the volume and the level of negotiation increase when you have put all your resources together. So we are asking now members to do more collective investments in terms of production, even services. If you're talking about logistics, individually it may be challenged to have over 100 trucks, because you need more money, you need more operation costs, but once you pull together resources, you can afford to buy 300, 400 and above trucks. So we are trying to encourage business operators in Rwanda to do more of manufacturing, more of collective investment in services, so that we don't rely much on import sectors, because today it is COVID, tomorrow it may be something else. So if you don't have enough production capacity locally in the country, if you don't have enough reserves in terms of production, then if COVID ends and something else comes, then we may be hit again.